Hi, my name is Gloria Moy, and I'm a member of Madison Avenue Baptist Church, and I've been a member here, I believe, since about 2014. And I just wanted to take some time to talk to you about how I see race, how it affects me, how it affects me now more than ever because of what's happening with COVID-19 and all the anti-Asian sentiment that's been trickling down the pipe. Early on, I think I noticed that I was different from people who looked like me. I am second generation Chinese American. I am the third child of Herbert and Elsie. Growing up, I was not a good student. I didn't fit the mold of a Chinese child. I grew up in Chinatown and went to primary school where everybody looked like me, but I was different. I got picked on in school, and from grades 4 to 6, I would get followed home from school and I would get beaten up. Though I never understood why, and I really never told anybody about this. When I went on to junior high school, I sought out friends that didn't look like me, mainly Hispanics and African Americans. I needed to be able to spread my wings and to branch out. And I also attended a church where everybody looked like me. And as I got older, I found it harder to be comfortable in that church because I watched my peers in junior high school get accepted to specialized high schools because they were fulfilling the traditional expectations, which I did not. I went to the neighborhood high school. I think growing up for me, I didn't look at race as much as I do now. I had a hard enough time trying to live up to some of the standards that my father expected of me that I didn't look at race as an issue. Growing up in the church, what confused me one day was a comment that was made by one of the older kids. I was standing outside of school waiting for my friends. Must have been maybe 8th grade, and he walked by. He was coming from the train station. And later that afternoon, he said to me, "I don't like your friends because they're not Chinese." And that comment has stuck with me all these years. And I tried to figure it out. I mean, how, if you call yourself a Christian and you say that God is love, tell me that you did not like my friends whom you have never met because they are not Chinese? I struggled with that then, and I struggle with it now. As I get older, like most adults, I wish I had taken the time to learn more about my heritage, to learn how my grandmother cooked and my mom cooked, the meals they made, the traditions, learn the language. I'm seeing that though the Asian community has had a huge part in the development of this country, we are omitted, we are not counted, we are excluded. I have never heard the Asian vote being courted during this election. There has been very little talk about how COVID has affected the Asian communities. One day, ABC had a graphic on their screen, and it said how COVID's affected minorities. And the first line was African Americans, the second line was Hispanics, the third line was women. I yelled at the TV because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Other examples of the exclusion of Chinese go back to the 1800s. In 1875, the Page Act was enacted to ban Chinese women from immigrating to the United States. And in 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act was enacted to prohibit the immigration of Chinese laborers. The white people felt threatened by the Chinese, that their jobs are being taken, similar to how white people feel about Mexicans. Much like when my fellow Christian passed judgment on my friends because they were not Chinese. I've always believed that God's love is for all humanity, yet sometimes I find it hard when the violence and the hate and the xenophobia that Chinese people worldwide have had to endure because of COVID has not been addressed from the pulpit, and how faith communities have been silent, standing up for Chinese brothers and sisters, and the silence has been deadly. Silence, my friends, is deafening, and it's very sad. And to be quite frank, I am very angry that our houses of worship have not taken up the plight of Chinese worldwide to fight xenophobia, hate, and the violence that we have endured. It is not just the treatment of non-Asians, but it is also how we treat each other, as we are all not the same. We are not homogenous. But I do see some hope. I do see some hope for the future, especially in my community now, as the young people have come in and they've taken the bull by the horns and they've raised money to help the community. They've shown up. And looking up for kids growing up, there's so much that can be done. Growing up, I was told not to rock the boat. Be submissive, go with the flow, because Asian people did not put up a fight. But what I hope for the younger generation are three things. One, never forget where you come from. Two, know your history, know your heritage. Be proud of who you are, and know that you are just fine, just the way you are, that though you may not be the person your parents expected you to be, you are just fine the way God made you. And number three, keep fighting, never settle. Be heard. You matter. Rock the boat so hard that you can rock the boat so hard until your brothers and sisters are counted, until we have a seat at the table and we have an equal share. No longer will Asians be omitted or an afterthought. My charge, or my hope for my non-Asian friends, is that you would stand with us, that you would raise your voice, you would support us as we try to get that seat at the table. We try to get the hate and the rhetoric that's coming from COVID to stop, and that we all can be one. And thank you.